being an engineer myself and talking with the engineers. First of all, there is a job shortage when it comes to engineering. If you think about this, since when do you hear people still now, when I grow up, I want to be an engineer? Even doctor and lawyer, not as much, right? They all want to be like streamers or TikTok stars or whatever that entertainment side of things. If you think about it, industrial engineering is what runs our world, right? Whether it's from a wastewater processing plant to making beer, vinegar, soy sauce to energy extraction.
Hi, my name is Demetri Panici, and I'm a content creator, agency owner, and AI enthusiast. You're listening to the AI Agents Podcast, brought to you by JotForm, and featuring our very own CEO and founder, Ida Tank. This is the show where artificial intelligence meets innovation, productivity, and the tools shaping the future of work. Enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the AI Agents Podcast. In this episode, we have James Zhan, the founder and CEO of RangerAI. How you doing today, James?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Demetri.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Just to kind of kick things off, tell us a little bit about your personal background. How did you find yourself operating kind of at this intersection of AI and heavy industry? And obviously a little bit before that, how did you even get into AI?
Yeah, I'm a repeat founder. So this is actually not my first venture-backed startup. But before I went down the tech journey, my background is actually industrial engineering, specifically in chemical engineering. My very first job was doing industrial RFPs or tendering for large-scale food and beverage company. And had an idea what the job is, but the reality was extremely daunting, spending all night sifting through thousands of technical drawings, engineering requirements, and these type of docs. Funny story. At one point in my career doing that job, I was so distraught by the entire process. I was 24, 25 at the time. Didn't have time to go on dates because every night I was just reading, highlighting, selecting all the specifications. I called my dad and told him, I think I'm going to go back to school and get a degree in computer engineering. He's like, why? You're in a great field. And I told him, if this is going to be my life, you're not seeing grandkids. I can't even go on dates. All jokes aside, that was actually one of the reasons why I went down the computer engineering path, and hence I'm solving that problem I encountered here at Ranger.
Interesting. Okay. Well, very cool. I'm glad that we found you going from one to the other, and this intersection makes much more sense for me now. Take us to kind of the early days of your, first ventures that you had prior to what you're doing here. If you can keep it brief, but just like what did you do from a startup standpoint prior to this? And then tell us a little bit about how Ranger kind of came to be.
Yeah, the two previous ventures I've done, my very first one was actually very similar to a Ranger thesis. It was using recommendation engine as a way to build out proposals and an ERP system for industrial companies. We're very fortunate to get a set of angels to invest in us, work through the problem, and was eventually acquired by a large public traded company. Now, I was pretty young at the time, and I wasn't able to really go through in venture scale, but I learned a ton in the process of how to build a company, sourcing the right type of founders, co-founders, and advisors. And that helped me to go through the next couple of ventures, focusing on Agentic AI for SDRs and prospecting. And ultimately, last year around September, I had the opportunity to partner up with 25 Madison out of New York to revisit my very first set of industrial thesis and build out Ranger.
Very cool. Okay, so Ranger in a sentence, what does it do?
Yeah, we help industrial companies with their tendering management process. Help them win more business, win more bids, and win more RFPs.
And tell me a little bit more about what that looks like without the augmentation of AI.
Yeah, I'll just explain to my first job. So my very first
Sure.
project I worked on, I was in charge of working with my engineering team, procurement team, finance team, and legal team to bid for a massive project for the company called AB InBev. As you know, they're the owner of Heineken, Budweiser, all these great beer brands. So in my mind, I thought, I'm going to be playing beer pongs all day on site with my fellow engineers.
Sure.
But the reality was I was handed a thick, like probably about 1.5 foot long of thickness in terms of technical documentations. And I
Oh,
was told, James,
geez.
you got to evaluate basically all the engineering drawings, count on all the instrumentations, and figure out some of the requirements and work with these different counterpart department to gather all the requirements.
Sure.
And my goal is to answer a simple question of, can we do this? Which means that, have we done a project? We have the engineering specifications or specialties to solve the requirement asked by the vendor. And that process took about 2 months to get done.
Hmm.
Thankfully, we won the bid and, went on site to see the construction. But that initial process, the tendering process, was excruciating. Um, you know, Not only do I have to review and work with the legal team on the financial terms, which I have no idea what I was doing, but I have to go through tons of past projects to figure out, hey, have we, procured this type of instrumentations before? Have we done this process before? How did it do before? How do we make sure the margin, the quote, the subcontractor, everything maps out? And the next morning, your professional engineer will ask you, hey, James, what's the chassis thickness that we need for this part? And I just got to know. Or I had to go sift through these 1,000-page docs and try to figure out where that requirement is. It's not as simple as Control F, because I'm sure it reference from one document to another drawing to a tech spec sheet or somewhere along that entire tender profile. The answer lies.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so that's a pretty clear and obvious time saver. I know that this is kind of where AI, I think, is managing to do a lot of work. Is it's the nonsensical, but you do have to kind of think through it type of work, or stuff you don't have to think through as well. Tell us then a little bit more about how what you guys are doing at Ranger would be described as agentic.
Of course. As I mentioned earlier, this process is a multi-departmental collaboration. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
one person working on their own, trying to come up with a proposal or a bid or a tender. You have multi-layer going from the issuer of the proposal to the
Sure.
EPC company. In this case, is essentially the project owner that bids, that flesh out the requirement, flesh out the engineering details. And then you have the equipment provider or the
Sure.
OEMs in that process. The OEM is responding to the proposal by the EPCs, and the EPC is responding to it by the issuer. And
Got it.
these issuer are issuing projects in the hundreds of millions to $1 billion in value. So when you go through these type of cross-departmental collaboration and cross-company collaboration, the agentic side of things will really help you automate and reduce not just the time-saving part, but improve your accuracy, getting that communication layer done, and having a multitude of individual digital twins that can help. So I'll give you an example. Let's say one of my job before is that I have to go to every single set of engineering drawings, and I'll manually count on the design sheet the valves that are on the drawing, and then compare
Wow.
that specification to the bill of materials that's provided, and make sure there's no mismatch and there's no issues that arise from, sometimes you'll make manual mistakes, right? There's 11 valves on the drawing, but in the bill of materials only 10. Then we have to go back to the company and say, hey, what was the actual answer? Very manual. Now you have an AI agent that goes using computer vision to detect all of these type of engineering specifications, create that BOM, cross-referencing it, and provide you with that level of accuracy and risk assessment with a click of a button. Another example I can give you is, let's say in the tendering process, I have to actually evaluate what are the engineering requirements or the legal requirements that I have. For example, what's the payment term? What's the actual force majeure? What do I need to do for in case I screw up? How much money I have to pay back in that process? With the insurance policy, approved vendor, and tons of requirements. How it's done now is someone manually reads through the entire sets of requirement, highlighting
Okay.
and copying it down. With AI, especially with Ranger's agentic agent, the AI goes and create that entire sets of requirement documentations that's customer facing and generate it, within a few minutes. So
Interesting.
when you have these multi-agent collaborating together, you essentially will be able to create that proposal in a much shorter time, with the help of the agent, and the human in the loop just need to review, adjust, and really make any necessary judgment in terms of subject matter expertise or engineering discipline to make sure it's right.
Now, tell me a little bit more about how much time that's saving, or well, obviously we're going to talk about more features you guys have, but how much time do you feel like you save in a process like that over like a course of a year for a company if they're like doing a decent amount of work?
So for one of our customers, we're seeing, I think time saving is one thing, but we're saving somewhere between 15 to 30% of turnaround time, which is massive.
That's pretty
But
good.
the key is, I would say a lot of their revenue comes from, this is their sales enablement process, right? How do they make money through winning these proposals, these tenders? We're helping them, especially doing something like 30 plus additional quotes every single month. They might not win all of them, but the key is they're competing, they're winning, and it really generates that top line revenue for them. And then another way you can think about this is the ability for you to bid through these massive projects. Winning is one thing, but the relationship building with these issuer is another thing, right? I'm sure you can probably relate if you were to do a home renovation, you invite 3 different contractors to do your home renovation. The person that never get back to you with a bid, you're never going to contact them again. And they're like, you didn't even respond to me. The person that responded to you first, even if it's a little bit pricier, but if it's done well, they have a higher chance to win. So when you put that together, that if you respond faster with better quality, even if it's pricier, you have a better chance to win. And if you don't respond, you lose that future proposal opportunity completely. Then I think what Ranger is providing is not just an acceleration of time to value or bidding on the contract, but an overall increase in their top line revenue and a help reduction in their bottom line as well.
That's a very good point. I think there's a lot of problems with communication that end up solving a lot of these things that, in so many different aspects of work. I remember I was discussing this with and it's funny because I don't know if maybe you could speak to this. I'm not sure how accurate it is. I think in the industries that are a little bit more, I use the term old school. I don't know if that's accurate, but a little bit more like manual, right? Like less knowledge work operationally, right? Like sure, there's knowledge work required, but I guess the like what they would consider as the output is, more physical things. There are a lot of people in those industries that don't realize that the knowledge work portion is like where you could probably make a lot of the gains with AI. I had a conversation with a friend of mine a couple weeks ago. She worked as I'm forgetting what her role was, but it was a very small company that essentially did home work, like drywall work, stuff like this for both houses and for businesses, right? So it was a lot of like, it was interesting because I had to spell it out to her because it didn't come to in the conversation. It was very funny because she was getting asked by her boss, like, oh, all this automation and AI stuff's cool. How could I, when I have a new client, open up like a new folder automatically in Google Drive with some templated stuff? I'm like, this has been a thing for like 7 years. That's not really revolutionary. Yeah. I was like, API has been around for a while. But correct. What I asked, I was like, so how do you bid on stuff? Right. And her answer was basically like, well, I do this. I'm like, well, I'm like, call me crazy, but is this not just square footage plus amount of rooms as like an analysis? Yes. I'm like, you have images of this stuff? Yes. Do you have set amounts of pricing for these? Yes. How long does it take for you to do one of these proposals and put it together? It's like, well, a job opportunity will pop up and then we'll take about like 4 hours to do it. I'm like, you do realize you could train an agent to make that happen in like 20 minutes, like at most with you tweaking it and sending it, right? And she was like, what? I'm like, how many of these do you do a year? 300? I'm like, I just saved someone a quarter of a job, right? Yes. I'm like, that's a quarter of hours of a work year. So I was like, these are the cool things that I think in your industry and industries like it have so much opportunity. So is that kind of what you're noticing? Maybe the industries are a little bit behind in regards to where the technology can help them outside of like the physical operation of the thing they're doing, like the adjacent things. Maybe I'm
Yeah, no, you're on point. Like I've certainly seen a lot of these proposal coming to the contractors, like whether it's your drywall or your HVAC or these type of coding tools, right? That's very helpful. But when it comes to industrial scale, due to the number of players involved, it gets really complex. But
Sure.
to add to your point, um, the industrial space, I wouldn't say they didn't try, but
Okay.
when I first started a similar thesis, I mentioned my first startup was in this space. One of the biggest problem I was faced with data readiness, and I think I'm still facing that right now. Some of these legacy companies don't necessarily have all the data that's digitized. Actually, we were with a customer. They had a room, literally like a huge room, just filled with file cabinets. Right, these are all of their old project they have done, everything they have done prior to I think 2008, right? And you're talking about like hundreds, if not thousands, of projects that's just not digitized. And that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think AI as a whole on how it applies in industrial space, it's still um, being adopted by the end user themselves. Some of them, like a lot of the professional engineers that I meet, are well in their 40s or 50s. They've been doing the
Okay.
same way they have as their mentors and their mentors. And all of a sudden, things that are used to be acceptable that takes about a week or to figure out can be done by an AI in 7 minutes or 5 minutes. It takes a while to really adopt that, build the trust with the AI and build a trust with their own skill set on how they can contribute to the value. So
Why do you
let's
think that
yeah,
is?
I think it's like I always make this joke that if you are used to doing something for so long and that becomes a part of your identity and your job, right? Like the moment I first got a Roomba at home, I used to vacuum to clean, right? I was fascinated just by watching the Roomba do its work. Am I fascinated because, hey, how does Roomba do this? Or am I more like, is it doing a good enough job like I would? The trust factor, right? So you can put that in parallel comparison in a lot of ways that these engineers with
That's
this
why I haven't bought one yet.
um, but like if you break it down, there are so many different companies now that's in this agentic AI part for industrials that covers a wide variety. So we're very top of the funnel, right? We're helping companies to win more deals. We're helping companies to earn more revenue, top line, bottom line in that sales process. And I'm also seeing a lot of AI companies now, startups that's doing process controls. So you can imagine like monitoring the production line
Sure.
and seeing where are the flow rates, the machine speed, the time, the quality of checkpoints, and using AI to optimize with sensory data, demand changes, and identify that inefficiency. That's huge. The other one you see a lot is in the quality control part, right? Like let's imagine you have with high-speed cameras, sensory arrays, and computer visions to essentially at scale detect cracks, dimensional variances, and all of these type of issues during the production cycle. And then, supply chain, inventory management, demand forecasting. There's another set of AI companies that's really focusing on like, how do I help your company to contract the raw material provider to get ahead of this so you don't run into the supply chain issue that we did right after the pandemic. Or the procurement side. A good friend of mine had this company that it would automatically go through all of your vendor bills that's about to
Hmm.
expire and automatically start a negotiation cycle using agents to be like, hey, we've been together for 2, 3 years. Can you lower the price a little bit, right? And if you want long-term contract, you have this AI to kind of pick the best opportunity and stack rank them to do negotiation. You'll for sure claw some money back or do some savings in the process. It's just like I'm sure you or me, people like us, would every few years change our mobile provider or internet provider to save 20, $30 in that process.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
very
Yeah.
important, right? Now imagine agent doing that with hundreds of vendors every quarter at scale. So these are all the different type of AI agents that I'm now seeing in the industrial space because the pipeline, the operation is so massive.
Yeah, I feel like it has the ability to really impact you at scale in a way that maybe some, because I think it's maybe, it is complicated, more complicated than this. So sorry if I'm limiting it, but I do think it probably has a lot more like input output transaction number, right? Like there's a
Yes.
higher transaction number than like a lot of service based, or knowledge work just doesn't inherently, I don't think, have as many like transactions. Maybe I'm crazy, but that just sound right. Or
I mean, they
like
do, but
service
like these
businesses have
deals are much
transactions,
bigger.
but not, yeah,
The volume might not be as high as the size and scale of these transactions, right?
sure.
And,
Yeah.
going back to what you were talking about earlier about this legacy space, I talked about the data readiness and I talk about the risk and compliance anxiety, right? Like, can I trust this to do the right job? Like, if I'm a professional engineer, I got to sign up on this. AI did a lot of the work. I don't know if you saw there was a news about this Big Four consulting company. Um, they put out a publication. They did this work for a enterprise company, and then it was making up quotes, hallucinating, making up quotes
When
about
was
things
this?
that didn't exist. It was pretty recent, a few months ago, and
Okay.
they ended up having to refund a bunch of their bills. And this is why, like at Ranger, we really focus on controlling hallucination. All the scaffolding we're building on top of our LLMs is really contained to make sure that we want things for industrial quality, which means that you can't have 85% or 75% accuracy. You got to get as close to 99.9% as possible. And the last part I think the industry is facing right now is change management fatigue. This is something that's often overlooked. Um, they adopted the whole cloud infrastructure and the whole, online everything. I would say quite recently relative to software companies. And then imagine you just went through the whole ERP system, the whole ESG rule upgrade, and then you went through a tariff shock, and now boom, AI. For this legacy industry, the agility they need to have, it's not as um, trained as software companies. So I would say that has been a very challenge that a lot of our industrial agent startup company are faced with. And this ability to go into the company, help them deploy AI agents to help them grow and get that value um, in a fast return is super important. So the time to value to customers is pretty indicative of how well they'll adopt you and continue to use you.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that adoption fatigue isn't a term I'd actually heard. So you just brought it up. So very, very interesting. That makes sense though. Like they were kind of, I have family that work in other industries that are still behind on adoption of other stuff. You mentioned how recently they kind of adopted cloud. You'd be surprised to hear a lot of even like the banking industry is like behind on that. Like they still were using manual, I'm getting like server based cloud, like ticker type stuff, which is wild. So we often are in this position where we're almost in a bubble, especially me. So big on AI, such a power user, talk to people like you 5 times a week. So when I meet people that don't utilize it, I see an amazing opportunity. But I also just feel like, wow, these people don't really know what they're missing out on. But then again, there are companies who have already adopted something, had struggles there. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. What would you say is kind of the most interesting or most exciting thing that you're bringing to your product or have brought to your product in the last few months or in the next few months?
It's the computer vision stuff
Computer
that
vision. Okay.
I'm the most excited about. I think it's one thing to be able to work and deal with unstructured text, right, or
Okay.
tables, right, but another thing to deal with engineering drawings and very
Okay. Yeah.
complicated.
I was trying to understand what that meant. So this is regarding drawings of
Yes. So, like,
specs of
let's
things. Okay.
imagine, going back to that file cabinet of, 1,000
Yes.
products from the past. They are handwritten, and if you are able to, say, take a photo of these handwritten specs and then putting to Ranger, and the AI is able to decipher all that information and index it properly for you to make it digitize in an instant. That level of power is incredible, right? Let's say I was able to sell this engine, I don't know, 10 years ago. Haven't made any modifications. Now I'm having a massive batch of these engines. the person that used to work on this project has quit already and moved on, and nobody else really know much about this, right? These type of product have very in-depth product catalog, has a lot of details, right? So what do they do right now? They open the file cabinet, look through the product catalog manually, try to figure out, okay, how do I quote on this? How do I bid on this? If you're able to just say, use your phone, take a photo, put into Ranger, and instantly create your quote or create your specs, or just query for like, hey, does this specification meet X, Y, and Z? That type of change is super exciting. Also, the ability, as I mentioned, to detect all the instrumentations in the engineering drawing, understanding the flow and the process itself, is very cool. I'm seeing this actually also quite a bit in the construction space, in the civil
Okay.
engineering space. There's a rise of using computer vision to start creating these type of bill of materials for, let's say, if you give it a layout, and it's able to then tag all the steel components and use math to calculate how much it needs, whether it's the beam, whether it's the actual studs, whatnot, and create that list of bill of materials. And that's really cool because right now it's all based on human manually going through this process and verify.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what our junior also focus their time on, which, going back to the other thing I'm seeing in the industrial space, is there are a lot less need for bodies, like outsourced technicians or junior technicians, to do
Really?
this type of grunt work, because I'm foreseeing the next few years, more and more of this will be done by AI. And the actual junior's job perhaps will be moving up the chain, in the sense of start getting more involved with the engineering work, understanding the process side of things, and the need to become a certified professional engineer, I think, will be even more important in the near future.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I didn't consider that. That's really cool. It's interesting to me. You brought up something here where it feels like there's constantly a different aspect of AI related to industries that does things people wouldn't expect. Like for
Mhm.
me, images and video and content managed to do wonders recently. Like there was a leap of 10% screen UI UX comprehension to 70% in Gemini 2.5 to Gemini 3. That opened up so many opportunities for myself in the content game. What for you do you feel like is one of the recent improvements in AI that's really opened up opportunities for you guys to help out more clients in your industry that you weren't expecting?
Um, that's a good question. I wouldn't actually use the technological advancement itself
Okay.
as a catalyst, but it certainly played a big part. Is the more widely adoption and the improvement in AI readiness that makes a huge difference. So,
Mm.
because more and more of our users have encountered ChatGPT or Gemini, or dealing with AI in their personal use cases, this adoption into work has been much easier. If you go back to a couple years ago, you tell AI in industrial, they can't even, like, prompting is even like, how do I do that? Right? Nowadays, you're seeing a lot more engineers or technicians or people in the industrial space that knows how to do a lot of these prompting, knows a lot to do these basics because their interaction with, um, the customer-facing LLM. And that certainly builds a lot of trust in what AI can do and helps serve as that gateway to deploy Ranger into these legacy customers. You know, the way to think about this is that if they haven't done something like this before, if I've never edited the video before, for me to go and start using a tool for content creation, it's very challenging. But if I'm using my iPhone, I have some basic exposure to editing videos, recording on my own,
Sure.
right? Then getting into that at a professional environment, it's much easier for me. The ramp is much lower. I'm much more willing to adapt to it. So I'm seeing the overall increase in the AI adoption in the everyday use cases, in like the civilian use cases, you call it, actually pushes the motivation to adopt it in the industrial scale much faster.
That kind of brings up something interesting. Would you say that with AI, it's about knowing how to get something done and articulating that in a manner so that the agent can properly replicate the understood human process, more so than it is about using AI to try to complete processes via it helping you sort out that process? How do you think it kind of plays out for you guys and the end user? Because that's something I've been seeing more and more. It's like a photographer's going to do killer work with, or a videographer's going to do killer work with Sora and the new Nano Banana stuff, or graphic designer, whereas like the average person's going to not know how to instruct the AI as much, and especially with agents and knowledge bases and rules and backgrounds. What are your thoughts on that?
So for us, and I think a lot of my counterparts in the industrial startup world, we have this mentality of limit the amount of openness for our customers. The idea is if you can keep the agentic interactions to something like comment and output, or drag drop and output, which is one action from the customer, one click, you get the output you're looking for. That's ideal. Everything else is a black box. So let's say, in Ranger's case, like you upload your 10,000 page in RFP documents into Ranger. You click on upload. The AI already goes through, cross-functional requirement extraction. It goes through all the embedding of the data. It pulls out all the detailed specifications. It runs through the multi-channel agents, all in the background, with the manager. And what the user get is the output of, okay, if I'm on the engineering team, here's my focus. If I'm on the finance team, here are what I need to do. So rather than giving openness of what you want the AI to do, the AI tells you, hey, here's how I get you the output as fast as possible that's most relevant into helping you move fast. So that's what we're seeing. And the reason is like, I am of the belief that whether it's agentic AI or who knows, quantum computer one day, right? The inner works of how it delivers the result it doesn't really matter that much to the typical user. What it matters is, can you deliver value to them fast, and can you help them make their job easier and help their companies improve their margins, right? The ROI behind it. So the more you remove that level of friction or the guesswork, and the more you get to the detail, the better. Let's use another case of Ranger. Let's say you put an industrial contract into Ranger's legal agent. You could have the human prompt something along the lines, can you tell me, all the red lines associated with payment clauses and give me the risk assessment? Why would we want to give the user that level of openness if we already program a multi-dimensional agent to do that? So they put the contract in there, they click one button, and the output is all the red line, clause by clause comparison, all the risk analysis, all the action item they have to do, and how they can talk to their legal or their customers about it, which is automating their workflow end to end, rather than having them decide on what workflow they use the AI for.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have another follow-up question with that, because I think it's something that I've kind of gotten into, and I'm not saying this because I think work should get worse or anything to that effect. Do you think that there's like a level of sometimes I do feel like in work we can make really cool stuff. We can make really great stuff. We can make really thorough stuff. But a lot of it is at a baseline, just a set of if-then propositions. And honestly, like 90% of what we ended up doing would have been perfectly acceptable, and it being done faster might have been better. Do you think that's better for the context of the situation, not objectively better as a thing? So I just want to make that distinction. Do you think that's AI has kind of helped make that something that can be more common in business, where it's like, I need something, I don't need it done perfect, I need something good? Do you think AI can kind of fill that slot more so than we think at the moment?
For sure, like the 80-20 rules, right? Like, I think the AI can get you 80% there. The rest 20 is up to the human to do it. I for sure think so. But, having been in the industry for 1.5 decade, I also want to say, like, earlier in my career, not just me, a lot of my peers, my manager, stay busy with busy work.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna like make any indicative comments on what I know the percentage of let's call it busy work is, but I certainly have myself done things to stay busy, but it's not a good use of my time. I.e., according to Dwight
Everybody's
Eisenhower,
done that. Yeah, you're you're
right?
you're
It's more
you're
like
not
the
off
low
base for that.
impact, high urgency work or low impact, low urgency work. It's just like you just do it just to fill up your time. And I think with AI now, a lot of these busy work shouldn't be needed by human. And the decision making or aka critical thinking side of the human in the loop, I think is more and more important, right? And that's the part, I also feel like school doesn't really prepare you for that as much as they would like to, right? I think I just saw this research where like 23% of Harvard MBAs are jobless 6 months or 3 months after graduation.
How much?
That's
Wait, did you say 23?
23, 23, yeah.
What?
Um, yeah, I'm like, maybe I'm wrong on the number. I'm pretty sure it's something stunning like that. You can look it up. Maybe it's a false report, but yeah, I'm just looking at 23% of Harvard MBAs have no job after graduating within 90 days.
Damn.
That same number was 10% in 2022, right? So it doubled in 2 years. And
Wow.
I'm also seeing like a lot of these AI companies about like automating the junior job at a hedge fund or financial institutions or compliance reviews or financial reviews or analyst research, right? So a lot of these, let's call them entry level job that focus on the grunt busy work is slowly being replaced.
Well,
And
that's been my theory for a while. I remember early on the show is like I kind of came to a realization. It was a bit of a two-parter. Like one, I did feel like when I first was working in the realm of marketing, I was a marketing associate, right? For like just doing basic paid search ads and paid media. And I came to the realization because I moved up and got promoted pretty quickly, but I was like, I don't think it was because necessarily I was that good. I just realized that the job was completely pattern, if then pattern recognition. And I'm just very good at that, which doesn't mean I was actually good at the skill, right, of being a marketing manager. But that has planted this thought in my head that a lot of work at an associate level position and knowledge work is just basic if then logic. And back in the day when we had assembly lines and whatnot, now we have the mechanical capabilities to do the basic if then physical component.
Yeah.
When MCPs started coming out and whatnot, I was like, okay, so now we're getting to the realm of APIs are not the limitation endpoint wise. And then we're getting into on-screen interaction stuff, which is just like another step closer. So yeah, not even knowing MCPs or on-screen stuff was possible. It's like, we have the computational capability here. We just need to like the endpoint and on-screen component gets fixed, and then like everyone's associate level jobs is cooked in 3 years. And I think I might be on track for that because like it's yeah, I'm automating a lot of stuff, and I have a small company and don't know as much as all these big companies do. So.
Yeah, and I think that's also why for me industrials is different. Again, this is just
Yeah.
my own thesis, being an engineer myself and talking with the engineers. First of all, there is a job shortage when it comes to engineering. If
Engineering.
you
Okay.
think about this, since when do you hear people still now, when I grow up, I want to be an engineer? Even doctor and lawyer, not as much, right? They all want to be like streamers or TikTok stars or whatever that entertainment side of things. So, but if you think about it, industrial engineering is what runs our world, right? Whether it's from a
Yes,
wastewater
absolutely.
processing plant to making beer, vinegar, soy sauce to energy extraction. So that's the first thing. The second thing is every entry level engineering training can tell you, I want to do more engineering work and less paperwork. They will
Exactly.
all tell you that. The paperwork is what kills them. And that's certainly killed me in that career, right? I want to do the actual engineering work, not so much about being the knowledge extractor for my senior engineer who, um, you know, really relies on me as he would rely on the AI now today. So that's the area I actually find a lot more interest in because I am certainly seeing more and more junior technicians and engineers having more opportunities to do like so-called the level up in terms of work and be out of the busy work. And I do hope this is going to be a massive change with all these agentic and industrial companies that's coming out because no Gen Zs or Gen Alphas now graduating university or getting a degree wants to be replaced by AI. So the only way to do this is coexist and learn how to use AI to enable you. But there's almost no AI adoption for a long time in the industrial space. Actually, cloud and these type of new age tech tool, which shone a lot of smart talent away from the industry. I'm sure you know if someone goes into oil and gas out of school, like if you're top the class 4.0 GPA from Harvard, you're not gonna be like, I'm gonna be an oil and gas engineer. Right? Like that's just not really the
You
type of
could though. That'd be. I mean, honestly though, like it's not bad.
it's not bad. I mean, there's also a reason these days, there's this article talk about how trades, whether it's electricians or contracting for renovations, are making record amount of income relative to before. It's trades going from you gotta grow up and get a white collar job to now like, hey, trades is great to be in. It's just a supply and demand.
Yeah. Parents' tunes changed pretty quickly.
Yes. And I think a lot of that has to do with these AI agents in this space. But I do think in the engineering world, it's only going to serve to make things better, faster, and more efficient, which is going to boost the overall economy. Like going back to what we're talking about onshore and reshore, and all bringing all these opportunity back. So that's where I'm seeing, and the amount of talent who now can use technology in this legacy industry to innovate. It's actually a huge canvas for more creativity to go into doing. And I think that's why it's very different than some of the other fields. That's very, very easily automated.
Yeah, fair. No, that's a good. And did you coming from that previous engineering background, or not? Sorry, not previous. Previous, yeah. Wait, did you coming from the old background you had, getting into what you were doing now more on the tech side? Did you kind of notice some of these things and patterns prior to getting back into the tech world? And maybe I don't want to try to make you seem prophetic or anything to that effect, but like, did you see any of these trends kind of early on, and that's where you're like, you know what, I'm going to get into this because practically speaking, it's going to be beneficial to me? Because I would love to. Honestly, it's crazy. I think we're the first generation in a while that would love to get back into the more brick and mortar, physical type stuff again. Because I'm like, I wish I could buy up some boomer's business that's like selling some widget or whatever.
Yeah.
And it'd be pretty chill in comparison when I get the admin work down. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I have, this is a great question. I have something very cool to share. So my wife, she is also a business owner.
Okay.
He owns a like Olympic level hip hop dance studio for kids.
No shoot. Okay.
So it's as brick and mortar as it gets, right? You got like a physical dance studio. You have like hundreds of families, and their kids are aged between like 5 to 15. And what I realized just watching her grow her business, first of all, she uses a ton of AI. It's crazy. She automates everything, from billing to customer success to like event management to content creation. But the one thing that's very different in the digital world versus the brick and mortar is the community. She has tons of these interactions with end users in a face-to-face environment, and being able to cultivate that level of like almost that tribal community like method that it's very hard for us to do. Even if I, Zoom or chat with you online multiple times, that in-person interaction continuously in a brick and mortar surrounding, it's hard to replace, right? And there's also
Absolutely.
the reason why people feel more detached working from home versus in the office. So I'm with you on that. I think the brick and mortar business is definitely making comeback, and I think with the adoption of AI in this space, we'll able to see much better margin, and you will make a business much more viable. To your point, you buy out the boomer business, you then apply a set of automation to it, you'll instantly get that level of return. And I think that's what a lot of private equities are trying to do right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this two-step where people who are like decently successful, maybe sold out of some other company in their 30s, are now like buying businesses that boomers are retiring from, and then operationally improving it and then selling it to private equity firms. There's kind of like this interesting two-step that is occurring with successful 30-somethings.
Yeah, I have a friend who recently bought a company that manufactures fireplaces.
Yeah, that
So
sounds like an exact perfect thing. I'd be like, oh, there's so many things I could do to make this more efficient that like they wouldn't have even thought of.
yeah, they have about 10 different product that they always manufacture. So they bought the company, took out a business loan, and then the revenue for it is about 1.2 a year. And the margin was pretty bad. The margin was like,
Couple 100,
15%,
200K.
15%
Yeah.
ish. And then they dug into the numbers. Tons of it is just due to paperwork inefficiency, like miscollecting bills, misbilling, like tons of these type of stuff, right?
Follow-ups.
Yeah, the follow-ups, and obviously the material costs, right? Because there's no like good forecasting, they would
Just buy.
yeah,
Yeah.
just buy when necessary. It's like, you don't have any
You can buy in bulk, I'm guessing, and save money. You could, yeah.
correct. So
Yeah.
yeah, they came in, they literally used Gemini, ChatGPT, and then they built out their own website with like auto configure, like really quickly using tools like Stripe and Shopify.
Yeah.
And they pushed their margin from 15 to about 32% in like 6 months.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right. And then they put on social media, they start like talking about, look at this cool fireplace,
Then they got more revenue. Yeah.
right? It's just like, I mean, I made it as easy. They put their blood, sweat, and tear into it, right? All day, every day.
It's a lot of work, but
It's a lot of
it's
work.
work that the other owner was never going to get to, because that wasn't
Correct.
like where their head was at all. Yeah.
Correct. So they now boosted their revenue by like 50% and increased margin to 34%. And that's huge, right? Like,
Incredible. Yeah.
hopefully they will get an exit in a few years, but that's the power of automation.
Absolutely. Well, just kind of as we get closer to the end of this episode, what would you say, speaking of cool stuff, is your favorite personal AI tool right now that you're using?
My personal AI tool, RoboFlow. So yeah,
I have
ROBO.
not gotten the same answer more than once. That's funny. Okay, RoboFlow, everything you need to build and deploy computer vision apps. Oh, okay, got it.
Correct. It's so cool. Like, they've been around for a while, right? But just the idea of anyone with enough data and data labeling skill can build their own computer vision model just opens up so many cool use cases. There are some stupid ones you can think of, like civilian use cases. You can make a fun app or a fun um, meme out of it, right? It's just that, yeah, I play around like for work, of course, but personally, like I play around with it just on random stuff. For example, like um, and there's tons of things. If you have enough image data, you can just label it for it to do certain things.
Wait, have you ever seen the show Silicon Valley?
Of course, one of my
Hot
favorite.
dog, not hot dog.
Yeah.
It just immediately came to mind. Jin Yang didn't have to do all that work.
Yeah.
We could have made seafood. Oh, that's so
Yeah,
funny,
yeah.
dude.
You train the AI to recognize all kinds of complicated stuff, right? And like it's funny because I was showing my wife some of the random stuff that I was using
Sure.
RoboFlow, and she's like, "Why do you spend your time doing this type of stuff?" And I'm like,
She's like, "What are you doing, dude?"
"Yeah, it's like, okay, there's the work side, which I really enjoy, but I feel like this is the fun part of things, the experimentation part. Like, you
Yeah,
can."
you gotta have fun with it at some point. Like, you can't. I think that I was telling on another interview earlier. I was saying this is to some extent a video game.
Yes.
Like all this AI stuff.
Yes. I saw this one college kid that built something super hilarious. You can put in your textbook, and then you can pick the game mode. It'll
Hmm.
extract all the core content in the textbook and make it into a game.
Hmm.
Whether it's like, you gotta solve this equation by shooting the right answer in the sky, or like an RPG, you gotta like figure out, like talk to the
Yeah,
right
that's so
people,
smart.
right? And it's all AI generated. Like how well it works, hard to say, but it certainly transformed. Like when I was a kid, I can remember when my teacher made education fun for me, I'm much more inclined to learn, right? And funny enough, a lot of my Russians I learned playing Red Alert when I was a kid, right? So the same concept can be applied to like these days. I think that's where the fun part when deployed properly is going to really change a lot of the foundations of our society.
Yeah.
I'm
I,
curious,
I
what
really
what
think
other answers you got in terms of tool? I'm just
I have been giving one consistently that's Crisp AI. It's a one I actually saw on the show where basically it's a 0.5-ish second delay, but it transcribes calls and gets all the background noise out. So say, for example, a lot of busy business owners or like founders, whatever, like on the go in their car taking calls. And I'm like, I think if all of them just had that, it would be so much easier because they could, I don't know, we can get into whether, I don't know if the API is well built out, but if it was well built out, all of these nerds could, one, make it sound better so people are like, oh, he's in a professional environment, his camera's just off, or or automated post-call workflow stuff. I always think transcription is ideal, and it's one of the few ones that manages to do it, I think, even if you're on mobile, because a lot of those tools require like a browser extension or like a in-meeting bot. So it doesn't have an in-meeting bot, but it's managed to be multi-platform. So that's one of my favorites. I love Text Cortex. It's just my favorite like
cool.
LLM wrapper. And I've heard a lot of interesting ones over the last couple weeks. I started to ask this question about a month ago, and just a bunch of there's that one voice one. I'm forgetting the name of it, where it's Whisper.
Whisper, yeah, yeah.
Not Whisper. Not Whisper. Sorry.
There's also Synthesia.
It's not Whisper.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is Whisper. It's the one where you basically can install it on your computer, I think, or is it Whisper Flow? Yeah, WISPR Flow. It's the one where you can basically install it, and it's a transcription, so you can just kind of mouth vomit. Because honestly, man, like with agents now, if you know how to put agents together, you can just be making lunch and explain as much as is needed and make a little mini agent for whatever task, put it in an automation in an hour or in 30 minutes, you can have like a solved workflow about something.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I
If you
saw
just
this one.
transcribe it, then parse it with, yeah.
Yeah, I saw this one engineer. It's just a funny flex. He basically said, like, how do I be a 30x engineer without touching the keyboard? And
I love this, man.
he built like 20 different agents, and it's all voice controlled, right? To basically build the requirements, code the agent, evaluate, bug, test out the feature, and all he had to do is like click on the. He's like, I just want to click on the commit, the PR review process and get it into production. But it's incredible, right? Like you get to that scale and it's totally doable that you just use your voice. It's like the first or the second Iron Man when he's working on his suit, and the whole time he's just talking to this AI on
Yes.
collaborating on how to build a suit, right? It seems wild how crazy it was back then, when Iron Man came out with.
But we're kind of there in a lot of
We're kind of
ways.
there, yeah. You
Yeah.
can in the car, you can have a full-on conversation with your AI and then just build out your week, your workflow, your OKRs, your plan, or whatever you're looking for, right? Just through a conversation.
Yeah. Systems thinking plus agents, I think, is one of the single, and audio is one of the, if someone wants to get ahead in this world, there's like, you need to understand like basic system and automation architecture, learn how AI agents can ingest data, make rules, that kind of stuff. And then find a good workflow to take those first two things and just mouth vomit your knowledge. And then you can automate many parts of your job and honestly, your life too. Like, this is the fun video game part, and I'll trying to close things out. We actually had such a fun combo. It went longer than I expected. My girlfriend was talking to me about how she had a get together planned with, or wanted to plan to get together with her and 2 other people, but like she goes back and forth between the Chicago suburbs and the city proper.
Yeah.
And someone was in the west suburbs, someone was in the north suburbs, someone was in Chicago. And she's like, I wish there was a way for me to triangulate the best options for us at a reasonably close amount to multiple people that are not just 2 people. And I was like, I like went in Lovable and was like Google Maps Matrix API. Just like typed, set up an API key in Google. Next thing I know, I'm like, here you go. You know, I'm like, the algorithm is going to be wonky-ish, but then like I played around with it too long, but in 4 hours, it was like genuinely good. Like, I don't think it could make any money really, but like it was for personal use. It's like, you know, it's kind of cute that you're able to play around, and it teaches you how to talk to AI, I think, even if you have stupid side projects that go nowhere.
For sure. I mean, like, to your back, the personal assistant agent, like the ability to craft this is just, it's the power you can only dream of just 5-10 years ago, right? Like, I had my own like gym agent, workout agent, you know, that it's like, I basically follow these influencers on YouTube, right? I just get some of their transcript and then put that in there and then say, hey, this is the workout plan that I want. I'm gonna update it all this time, create the rules. And then if I slip, you know, you gotta yell at me like you know, certain influencers online, like, and it's hilarious. Like,
Just have it talk like Gary Vee did. Like, seriously, I just want some dude yelling at me about like grinding and blueberries, and I'll probably like never stop working.
It's like a military drill sergeant that's constantly breathing down my neck, you know?
David
like,
Goggins.
Yes, that's who I was thinking.
All right, so just to close things out, where can everyone go to find you and check out everything cool that you're doing over there at Ranger?
Yeah, you can go to RangerRFX.com or just search up Ranger AI or RangerRFX on Google or LinkedIn, typing Ranger AI. We're pretty easy to find. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to show you what we're doing. More importantly, Demetri, thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a blast this entire show. We appreciate you for coming on. And if you guys enjoyed it as well, make sure to go to the Ranger, I got to say it correctly, RangerRFX.com. That's Ranger with 1 R and then another R, FX.com. And also hit the like button on this video if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to get this out to as many people as possible. Thank you so much for listening or watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.